All right, welcome back. So we're going to talk about AWS managed workflows for Apache Airflow. But before we get started, hit the like button, subscribe, share with anyone you know taking the AWS Machine Learning Associate exam. So Amazon MWAA is a managed orchestration service for Apache Airflow, enabling programmatic authoring, scheduling, and monitoring of ETL workflows, data pipelines, and machine learning workflows using Python-based DAGs. These are directed acyclic graphs. So rather than manually provisioning Airflow infrastructure on EC2 or Kubernetes, MWAA provides fully managed environments, auto-scaling workers using AWS Fargate, integration with Amazon VPC, IAM, S3, and dozens of AWS services, and an optional public Airflow web UI endpoint for monitoring workflows. This suits data engineers and machine learning practitioners needing complex workflow orchestration through code without operational overhead. So, Apache Airflow fundamentals. Okay, let's go over here. All right, so Airflow uses Python code defining workflows as DAGs. A DAG is a Python object defining task sets and execution order. Operators define work units like bash operator, Python operator, or Lambda operator. The scheduler triggers tasks according to defined schedules. The web server provides a UI for monitoring, retrying, or pausing workflows. Airflow has no GUI workflow builder. You write Python code defining task logic and dependencies. A simple DAG might echo hello in one task and Airflow in a second task, with the second dependent on the first completing. So what does that architecture look like? Let's see. All right. So you write DAGs in Python and upload them to an S3 bucket. MWAA automatically reads DAGs from that location and runs them using managed Airflow schedulers and workers inside your VPC. Access and monitor DAGs via the Airflow web UI through internal or public endpoints. S3 stores your DAGs, plugins, Python requirements, and dependency files. MWAA runs inside your VPC with private or public access points or access options. All right. Fargate containers can provide auto-scaled workers and schedulers, and the web server can offer optional access via private or public endpoints. A metadata database can store workflow metadata and run history behind the scenes. So, how does this work with AWS? So, AWS leverages Airflow's native public plugins and hooks, integrating with many AWS services through open source Airflow community provider packages. S3 can handle data input, output, and DAG storage. SageMaker can manage model training, tuning, and batch inference. Lambda can provide event-driven compute. Glue can perform ETL and data cataloging. Athena can query S3 stored data sets. Batch can run large jobs and compute pipelines. ECS and Fargate can execute containerized tasks. Redshift can provide data warehousing. Kinesis can handle streaming input. SNS and SQS can enable messaging and alerting. And Secrets Manager can secure credentials and data access. It's a lot. So how much does it cost? All right. So environment pricing starts at 34 cents. Let me see. I get the number. I think it's 34 cents. Well, that's the pricing table for the micro. But it's a roughly 33% per hour based on the environment class, right? The scheduler and the worker hours are included in the environmental building, and standard S3 charges apply for storage. CloudWatch logging can incur additional charges if enabled, and the underlying Fargate and networking resources can affect costs indirectly. So you can control costs by using smaller environment classes. And there you go. See here. All right. And limit the number of workers and avoid long-running DAGs unless absolutely necessary. All right. So how would you do this? We're going to do a very brief overview. All right. So let's see if we can do it. All right. So it'll be over here. Manage Apache workflow. You'd have to, oh man, we're not going to do it. We're just going to show you where. We're just going to show you. Okay. So click the little hamburger, the environments. All right, so you'd have to write your Python code, zip it with the plugins, requirements, or Python libraries, right? Upload it to an S3 bucket, and then from here, you create the environment, all right? See, you create the environment, here, my Airflow environment, which version you're gonna use, when you wanna have the maintenance windows, and then select it from that S3 bucket, right? And so from here, You can specify certain plugins for S3 path and Python requirements file and enable only necessary logging like task logs to CloudWatch, or create or select execution roles with access to other services like SageMaker, S3, Lambda, whatever, right? And you can configure a VPC in a private subnet with NAT access, or a private or public subnet with NAT access across at least 2 availability zones. And then you can start testing, right? Once you get this, you continue to specify, the advanced settings, be able to create the environment. And from there, you'd be able to see the environment here. And you'd be able to see the MWA access control console in the console, be able to open into the Airflow UI. If you're using a public endpoint, you will want to make sure that IAM permissions can control access, right? So that user interface will display all the uploaded DAGs, where you can manually trigger, pause, or monitor them, right? And from there, you can auto scale worker containers based on the DAG load, right? So it gives you a lot of flexibility, but just make sure that you're monitoring CloudWatch if it's enabled, and use CloudTrail to audit access and CloudWatch metrics for the performance insights. All right. Okay, so how does this work with workflow application? It's costs. Okay, so SageMaker pipeline orchestrations. This is for machine learning, right? So those SageMaker pipeline orchestrations can orchestrate sequences to train, tune, evaluate, and have model registration, right? You can have data preparation and transformation using like Glue and Athena, filtering and cleaning S3 data. You can batch model scoring loads with new data daily and trigger SageMaker batch transform, right? You can also feature engineer pipelines, create usable feature DAGs, and run them daily or weekly, right? And with machine learning ops, you can integrate trigger workflows from S3 object uploads, CI/CD pushes, or scheduled intervals. Basically, Airflow can enable a complex dependency management, including retries, monitoring, and it really makes it ideal for a multi-step machine learning pipeline. So for the exam, remember a couple of essentials. When you're talking about orchestrating complex machine learning workflows with code, managing dependencies between pipeline stages, or scheduling data processing tasks with Python-based definitions, MWAA is the managed environment automating workflow without that infrastructure management overhead. And that is the focus that will be on the exam. So that's all we're going to have for today, but glad you joined us. Remember, hit the like button, subscribe, share this with anyone you know taking the AWS Machine Learning Associate exam. Thank you, and have a good day.